This is a clip from the Cannon podcast. To hear the full episode and get access to exclusive benefits, head over to patreon.com/thecannonpod and sign up for just £3 a month.
Arsenal will have money to spend, especially after signing Raya on a £3 million loan fee, and obviously you're going to have to pay a bit more after. With that being kept in mind, Arsenal could still be active in the market. I think they still are active in the market, and there's still quite a few areas to address. So if you were a part of the Arsenal recruitment team, what would your first area to address be in terms of the next potential signing? I don't think we'll make two signings, probably one more signing. We've got probably around 2 weeks of the window left. So with that being kept in mind, is there any players that stand out to you on the market that are actually gettable? So we're not talking Victor Osimhen at this point. Let's talk about gettable players that we can sign this summer. Now, I'll go for the links first. We had some links to American Laporte from Man City, while Cancelo as well. You've got now, I think some fans keep calling for even Fresh Schneider as a fullback, so going down your route of signing a right back and having left back options as well. What player would you sign if you were on the Arsenal recruitment team?
So what you're saying is Mbappe is off the table? You sure about that?
Listen, maybe, I think if Neymar's just gone to Saudi Arabia, I don't think Mbappe's leaving in the same summer. But maybe next window with Osimhen as well.
Yeah, exactly. No, in all seriousness, when I have a look at it, I think everybody knows there's a want in the Arsenal fan base to really get a right winger. I'm not in favor of that as much personally. I still don't think that in terms of backup right wingers that there is much better than Gabriel Jesus out there. I look across Europe, and for me, is there somebody that can beat that role? And there's really not many. And so I don't know if I've got enough value in the winger market for me to justify a big purchase there. I then look towards defense, and I kind of alluded to it previously. I think that a versatile defender, specifically a fullback, is something that I'm really interested in. Why? Because despite us buying Jurrien Timber, who had played a lot at center back, I don't agree that he was in the center back fold. He could have maybe slotted in emergency, but I don't think that he was a primary use for a center back. I still believe, for example, that Tomiyasu should be rotated back into the center back rotation. He should be that full time. I think if I looked at the four players that I look at back there, I would look at another versatile fullback, because Jurrien Timber played mainly those roles in preseason, and that's what we're losing in terms of versatile depth. And there's one thing that I keep looking at, mate, and I ask this question: who in the 11, if they were to go down injured and have a Saliba moment in the title run-in, do we have that is a suitable backup quality that we can be comfortable with? And our squad is deep, but I look at Ben White, and I've said it before in the pod, who in our 11 can replicate what Ben White can do even now? Is there another player that people truly believe in the Ben White role that he currently does that we can turn to in times of need to kind of switch things up? We all know that with an inverted right back in Thomas Partey, that's one option, but then that also means, are you keeping Kieran Tierney? Because that doesn't suit Zinchenko, right? So there are some things that we need to start to think about in terms of complementary pairs. And I just think that adding another youth right back, and again, Ivan Fresneda is somebody that's been on kind of the name on my lips since the beginning of the summer. I really believe in his potential. He's somebody that also has played as a left wing back for Leguns in his early days, so he has experience playing both sides. He's versatile. He's a 6-foot defender that's got that running power that can give us that dynamic, that vertical running power that Ben White gives us. And I think he's also young enough to be coached into kind of a different role in terms of an inverted fullback. There's no reason why he can't be coached into that, and he's one of the more defensively resolute fullbacks that are on the market for me. And I think when you look at Jurrien Timber, again, I keep highlighting, you're losing his second ball control, you're losing his dueling capacity, and you're losing a player that offered us a little bit more in the transition control department than it did in the final third. And so for me, when you look towards a replacement, let's make sure that we're not buying the same player, but let's make sure that we're not losing the same role that he provided in the 11. And so that for me is a little bit more of an Ivan Fresneda type.
Mm-hmm. And Fresneda is a player that I think will be available, and I think he will definitely leave this summer.
Yeah.
I think his team got relegated, and I think he's got a release clause as well. So
£17 million release clause, max.
It's affordable, and the fact that Arsenal have manoeuvred around the Raya fee means they've got money to spend there. We will have money to spend after Balogun goes, potentially, actually, I should say, not hopefully, potentially, and Kieran Tierney as well. So the money will be there, and I think there's other areas as well that stand out to me. But I was thinking about this in terms of midfield now. The midfield has been crazy recently. Not just Arsenal's midfield, but the midfield market has been crazy. Chelsea, in particular, we're looking at you, my friends. I don't know what you guys have done. I mean, we thought Caicedo was going to Liverpool for a sec. You took Caicedo and you took Lavia as well. Bit greedy, aren't you? Bit greedy of a club. But midfield market now is a bit crazy. We've seen it with Rice this window. Then we've seen it with Lavia and obviously Caicedo as well. the midfield market in the sense of who's available now is a bit different. Lavia and Caicedo, both players that Arsenal at one point wanted to sign. Now they're both off the market, and we saw the price they went for. Are there any midfielders that Arsenal could sign this window to play as that second phase midfielder to, have that? If Havertz isn't playing as an 8, we have an option to play there. Obviously, you've got Rice that can play there as well. Is there any players that stand out? Now, there has been one reported rumour. I wouldn't say it's a confirmed interest so far of Douglas Luiz. Now, I don't know if he plays that role very well, but he plays that for Aston Villa quite a lot now. He's been one report. Obviously, we've seen him in the past. We've talked about him in the past, linked to Arsenal a year ago or two. Who would play in that role? There was one player that I thought back in the day would have actually thrived there. Houssem Aouar would have actually done very well in that role, but obviously I think he's gone to Roma now. So let's talk about that left-sided number 8. If Arsenal can sign a midfielder that can also play as a number 6, that whole 6-8 hybrid that you keep going on about, for example, who would that player be?
I don't think that we've got an established name that's of value. I mean, Chelsea kind of blew open the market. So, like, if you were to go and say... as per, exactly. I mean, if you were to go to a name that I'm sure that, is familiar to Arsenal fans, Manuel Locatelli, for example.
Locatelli, okay.
Yeah, Locatelli could be something that, is an interesting opportunity as a 6'8". Now, it's not something that I love as a profile personally, but he's an example of a player that's got more of a name in the market. What does somebody like that go for realistically now that Chelsea have spent 55 or 50 on Lavia, 115 on Caicedo? You don't think that Juventus are asking for at least 75 million pounds for Locatelli in that instance? I mean, it's just, that's the issue when you've got a market explode like this, and I just don't see value at this point. You could go to Madrid, ask the very unlikely situations, which is why I'm not too sure why people kept suggesting Tchouaméni. I mean, he's the only anchor in that 11, but again, are you not asking for £100 million plus market right here? And do Arsenal have the capability to really spend another £100 million after having spent £200 million? That's something that I think is unrealistic. So for me, I'm looking at prospects. I'll give some names for people to kind of have a look for, and there are more out there names because I don't feel that there is even somebody in a medium tier. Like, I don't love Tyler Adams. He's good value for £20 million release clause. Don't get me wrong, but I just don't think he's the quality.
Why do you like him? He's American.
Well, yeah, exactly. I'm showing up now. He's like, you don't like your countrymen. Like he is an okay player. And I think that, the level that we're looking at right now, in order to buy for a 6'8", if we needed it, we don't need depth. We've got Vieira, Emile Smith-Rowe. We've even got Kai Havertz, who I don't think is guaranteed a starting 11. Like, it's argued at least. And then when you start to go through it, you've got the Miles Lewis-Skelly, you've got the Ethan Neri. Like, you've got people there in a depth capacity. So if you're going to buy, you have to improve the starting 11. And then again, are you improving on Rice, Partey, Odegaard? Like, these are big questions, you know what I mean? And for me, I will look towards more prospects right now because I don't want to panic buy. I don't want to be pushed into a situation where I'm buying somebody that I'm looking to sell in a year or two. And I just don't see too many value plays in those big name departments. So I think Oscar Zambrano, he's an Ecuadorian player, very young, 19 years of age. That could be worth a punt. Somebody very young that, of course, Brighton have looked at in the past. He could be kind of your Caicedo-esque profile. If you're looking for somebody that profiles a little bit more towards a Declan Rice in general, is Mats Weifer, who plays for Feyenoord. He is an excellent player, somebody that I really believe well in. He is 23 years of age, and I think, again, another player who would not cost you tons of money. And so that for me is somebody that, would maybe emulate a little bit more of what Declan Rice gives you as more of an anchor type, as opposed to maybe that Oscar is more of that 8 type like Caicedo, who could operate a little bit higher up the pitch, who could kind of operate in these tight spaces but give you that Conte-esque defensive ability. Like, for me, they're very different profiles, and I think Mats Weifer is a little bit more of that lighthouse anchor type of guy that can receive off the center back, spray long passes, excellent distribution, but is a little bit more sturdy and is a little bit more taller, a little bit bigger of a frame. We can talk about Federico Redondo and his son. That's something that I also talked about on Twitter. I can't leave this section without mentioning him. He's a little bit more of a different type of anchor. If people are interested in that type, he's more of the defensive kind of deep-lying playmaker. He is Busquets. Yeah, you took the words out of my mouth. He is absolutely Busquets in that term. He is somebody that is just 10 steps ahead of everybody else. He's a 6'2", Argentinian midfielder who, again, I think is 19, 20, maybe 20 years old. And
I think it's 20, yeah.
Yeah, and he's just got a phenomenal ability in terms of scanning. Like, I have not seen a player also that combines this level of game intelligence with his athleticism. He is an athletic kind of guy. Like, normally with deep lying playmakers, you don't get somebody that's defensively resolute. You know, your Xavi Alonso's, your Scholes, your Pirlo's. They're excellent players, but they aren't somebody that I would say are transition monsters. They're not that type. Look, Redondo is 6'2". He isn't that. He's got huge legs. And he uses it to good effect. And, you know, I think he would be an option as a prospect. But again, all the players that I've mentioned here, between Zambrano, Redondo, Mats Weifer, they're all prospects. And they aren't people that, for me, would immediately come into the 11, but they're people that could grow to have a ceiling to be a first 11 player.
Thanks for checking out the Cannon Podcast. To get full episodes and access to exclusive benefits, head over to patreon.com/thecannonpod and sign up for just £3 a month.